Chapter 14, The Chosen. Han Sen was somewhat surprised to see Han Hao sputtering on. He did not know Han Hao was also randomly sent to the steel armor shelter. Han Hao was 3 months younger than him, so he should have just had his birthday and gained access to God's sanctuary. For unknown reasons, if those under 16 were teleported, their bodies would suffer irreversible damage. So according to the Alliance laws, one must be 16 years old to be teleported to God's sanctuary, regardless of social status. "Hey Frenzy, where are we going?" Han Sen asked Zhang Danfeng. Although Zhang Danfeng was a good-looking man, he became crazy whenever he was in a fight, hence the nickname. Zhang Danfeng's face lit up. "Starlight Martial Hall. My idol Tang Jinliu's going to be in an exhibition fight held there. He was the chosen last year, and his broadsword skills are so fierce." Zhang Danfeng was full of yearning. In this era where everyone was focused on evolution, stars no longer came from acting, singing, sports and esports, but from fighting. In God's sanctuary, once every year the martial hall of each shelter would open at the same time, and those in the top 100 could have their names on the martial stele in the martial hall. The champions from each shelter would be eligible to compete among themselves. And the same happened in all 4 phases of God's sanctuary. The top 10 from each phase could have their names on the sacred stele, which was public to everyone in the same phase, and gain the title, The Chosen. And the 10 chosen would become the hottest stars of the year. In recent years, Qin Xian had always been the champion of steel armor shelter, but her name was never on the sacred stele, so she was never among the top 10 of First God's Sanctuary. Ranking number 5 last year, Tang Jinliu was known for his fierce broadsword skills. He was very popular among young people and even more well-liked than the top 4. He was paid as high as 10 million levo dollars for any exhibition match. Knowing his popularity, Han Sen was nevertheless shocked when he saw a full house at Starlight Martial Hall, which could accommodate more than 100,000 people. Many crazy fans were holding signs and calling out Tang Jinliu's name. When he appeared, a girl was so excited that she fainted. "If I could have my name on the sacred stele like Tang Jinliu once in my life, then I'd know I've lived," Zhang Danfeng said admiringly. "You will frenzy." Han Sen smiled and said, watching the young people around him going crazy for Tang Jinliu's appearance. "It's so hard. I have entered God's sanctuary for 3 months already. Although I bought some primitive flesh and a primitive beast soul, it's still difficult for me to hunt any mutant creatures. If I could buy a mutant beast soul, it would be much easier. But even if I had the money, people wouldn't necessarily sell their mutant beast souls." Zhang Danfeng shook his head with a wry smile. Han Sen thought to himself regretfully, the only thing that could be brought from God's sanctuary to the real world was a beast soul, while it can only be used but not traded there. Otherwise I could produce mutant creatures and would gain some mutant beast souls eventually, which could be really helpful to Frenzy. "Haha, then I have better luck than you, Danfeng. I just entered God's sanctuary and have already gained a mutant beast soul. Such a pity you are not in steel armor shelter, or else we could hunt together and I could help you," Han Hao said proudly. "You've gained a mutant beast soul already? Tell the truth, did you hunt it or pay for it?" Zhang Danfeng cried, staring at Han Hao. "Of course I hunted it myself," Han Hao said loudly. Han Sen laughed to himself. Since he was a kid, Han Hao had always raised his voice when he lied. His parents probably bought him the mutant beast soul with an enormous amount of money. The cheapest mutant beast soul would cost millions, and good ones tens of millions. So that's why his relatives were after the old house. It was a huge expense for them. Although the company had earned a lot of money, they had probably spent it all by now. Tang Jinliu was indeed awesome. Although it was just an exhibition fight, his broadsword skills were so swift and fierce that his broadsword almost became invisible. After watching for a while, Han Sen knew that Tang Jinliu must have practiced premium hyper-geno arts and learned his weapon skills from masters, and he was no competition to Tang Jinliu. Tang Jinliu won the fight and summoned a beast soul to perform, shape-shifting into a 3-meter-tall Tyrannosaurus creature and smashing a huge stone with its head, arousing a burst of screaming. Sacred blood beast soul of raging Dementor. I would do anything for a beast soul like this. Zhang Danfeng stared at Tang Jinliu, who turned into a monster with a watering mouth. This is nothing. This beast soul is nothing like the $1 has. Han Hao sputtered about dollar as if it were himself. It would take a showdown to tell. Tang Jinliu was Danfeng's idol, so he was upset to hear that. I don't know how good dollar was, but his sacred blood beast soul was robbed from others, and it was not a chivalric act. Even if he had a great beast soul, he would not be comparable to Jinliu. Han Sen blushed with shame and thought, "Oh frenzy, you didn't know what a hard time I was having. How could I let go of an opportunity like that? Not to mention Son of Heaven was my enemy." Han Sen was hesitating whether or not to tell them that dollar was himself but decided not to. It wouldn't do them any good, after all. Chapter 15, Selling Flesh. Han Sen kept practicing jade skin and recovering after he returned home. Every 2 days he went to God's sanctuary to check on the copper-toothed beast. It took the beast half a month from the time it swallowed the black crystal to become a mutant creature, but it was still the size of an ordinary copper-toothed beast, while the mutant copper-toothed beasts Han Sen had seen were twice that size. In addition to the size, the one he evolved into wasn't much stronger either, not even close to a true mutant one. Han Sen took out his alloy dagger and slashed the beast on the neck, but caused no damage at all. It was his dagger that chipped. So it is somewhat different from an ordinary one. Han Sen shapeshifted into a bloody slayer and snapped its neck by force. Mutant copper-toothed beast killed. No beast soul gained. Eat its flesh to gain 0 to 10 mutant geno points. The sound in his mind overjoyed Han Senator. It might look different than a wild mutant copper-toothed beast, but it was fine as long as it was indeed a mutant creature. Now what was troubling him was how to sell this mutant copper-toothed beast. He really needed the money, or else he could just eat it to gain mutant geno points. It is too dangerous for me to sell it showing up as dollar, now that the entire shelter is looking for him. But it would also be troublesome if I were to sell it using my own true identity. Han Sen still decided to use dollar's name after some hesitation. Su Xiaoqiao was depressed these days. Qin Xian asked him to find dollar, but he didn't know dollar any more than she did, so what was he supposed to do? Early in the morning, Su Xiaoqiao was tripped by something and fell flat on his face. Who is this #cur that placed a stone in front of my room? He's dead if I find out. Even more depressed than before, Xiaoqiao saw that there was something under the stone. He took a closer look and found a note and a bundle. The note said, "Goods worth 50,000 delivered. We are square. If you want more, come to Zephyr Valley tomorrow. Cash only." Although there was no signature, a coin was drawn at the lower left corner, making clear who it was from. Dollar. Su Xiaoqiao was thrilled but didn't make a sound this time. Looking around and seeing no one, he took the bundle and note and closed the door. Su Xiaoqiao carefully opened the bundle and saw a long strip of meat jerky the size of 2 or 3 bites. Su Xiaoqiao chewed up the meat jerky and swallowed. Mutant copper-toothed beast flesh eaten. 1 mutant geno point gained. The voice in his mind surprised Xiaoqiao, mutant copper-toothed beast flesh. So it was hunted by dollar? He must have more now that he asked me to bring cash to Zephyr Valley. Thinking of this, he got even more excited that he could bring Qin Xian's message to dollar and buy mutant flesh from him at the same time. Early in the morning, Su Xiaoqiao set off to Zephyr Valley. He waited from early morning to noon but didn't see dollar coming. *T, he must have fooled me. Su Xiaoqiao was so upset that he was preparing to leave, but then heard someone say, you brought cash?" Shocked, Su Xiaoqiao turned around and saw Dollar in golden armor emerging from below the ground. "Brother, did you hide there all morning?" Su Xiaoqiao said, staring at Han Sen. "I've been hiding here since last night. You know what's going on right now, and I have to be careful," Han Sen said casually. "I admire you, Dollar, but you really have nothing to worry about. I'm so grateful you would sell me mutant flesh and would never betray you." Su Xiaoqiao gave Han Sen the thumbs up. It was incredible that he could stay underground for the whole night and the entire morning. It must have been so uncomfortable. "Cut the crap. Did you bring the money?" Han Sen pulled out another bundle from the pit where he was hiding and placed it in front of Xiaoqiao. Su Xiaoqiao looked inside the bundle, which was full of the same meat jerky he had eaten yesterday. There must have been more than 5 pounds of it. He excitedly asked, "Dollar, did you make all this from the mutant copper-toothed beast?" "Yep. An entire mutant copper-toothed beast is right here." 2 million, and no bargaining, Han Sen said. "Well, 2 million is fine." Su Xiaoqiao handed 2 stacks of 10,000 notes to Han Sen, but doubted whether the entire beast was really there, as there should have been more meat. Han Sen noticed his doubt, took the money and said, "This meat jerky is made in traditional ways, so it shrank a bit. Rest assured that the whole beast is here." Han Sen made the copper-toothed beast into meat jerky so that no one would wonder why the beast was so tiny. "Of course I trust you." Su Xiaoqiao paused and said, "Dollar, you should know that I work for Qin Xian. She has a message for you. She wants to buy the sacred blood beast soul and golden axe you gained the other day, and she could offer you a good price." "Oh, what is the price?" Han Sen was interested in selling the golden axe, as it was not that portable. He hadn't found a chance to use it, so it was still buried. "You will have to figure this out yourselves. I'm just the messenger," Su Xiaoqiao shrugged and said. "If you meet with Qin Xian, tell her if she really wants to buy it, she can name a price and you can bring it to me," Han Sen said lightly. It was too risky for her to meet Qin Xian. Chapter 16, Quartz Scorpion. Han Sen took back the beast's soul armor and returned to steel armor shelter. When he was entering the gate, he met an acquaintance. "Sen?" Han Hao was surprised to see him. "Han Hao, you know us, freak?" Han Hao's companions all recognized Han Sen and looked at Han Hao strangely. "No, wrong guy. Let's go." Han Hao paused and looked embarrassed. Without saying hello, he walked past Han Sen. Han Hao hadn't expected Han Sen to be in the same shelter, nor that he was also the infamous S-freak. If word got out that he was Han Sen's cousin, Han Hao couldn't imagine what Son of Heaven and Qin Xian would do to him. Han Sen smiled wryly and did not expose Han Hao's lie. Since Han Hao didn't want anything to do with him, why would he do his cousin any harm? With 2 million on him, Han Sen left God's sanctuary and went back home. He asked Mr. Zhang to help with the legal procedures regarding the old house to avoid any further disputes with his relatives. After that, Han Sen felt a lot more relaxed. Everything would be taken care of and life would only get better. When he earned more money, Han Yan could go to a private school, where she could get a much better education than he did. In some elite schools, she could even learn hyper-geno arts and have a much better start. To enter an elite school, however, her family must be aristocratic. So Han Sen must complete one evolution and gain the title. That would be a piece of cake for me. I could even have the title of Sacred Blood Aristocrat if I want. Han Sen's spirits were high. "Brother, you here?" Han Yan, in floral pajamas and holding a doll in her arms, poked her head through the door and searched for Han Sen. Seeing Han Sen sitting on the bed, she ran over and leaned against him with the doll. "Naughty girl, why are you still up?" Han Sen pinched her little nose. "Yen wants to listen to a story. It's been forever since you told me stories, and I've missed you so much since you've been gone." Han Yen looked at Han Sen with watery eyes. Han Sen sighed secretly. Since he graduated and entered God's sanctuary, he had almost no time for his little sister, which he felt so guilty about. "I'll tell Yen a story right now." Han Sen sat Han Yen on his lap, opened a story book and read softly, "Once upon a time." After Han Sen returned to God's sanctuary, he decided to catch a primitive creature to feed, which, incredibly, would turn to a mutant 1.5 months. But Han Sen was more curious to know how long it would take for it to become a sacred blood creature, which is what he needed most. It was still relatively easy to hunt a wild mutant creature, but almost impossible to hunt a sacred blood one. Take the Bloody Slayer for example. He could never have killed it if it weren't already severely injured by Son of Heaven. The moment Han Sen left his room, he was pulled away by someone. Han Sen turned and saw Han Hao, who pulled him to a remote spot. After confirming there was no one nearby, Han Hao said, "How did you cause such trouble? You haven't even been here long, and you've managed to piss off gangs of both Qin Xian and Son of Heaven." "I didn't mean to," Han Sen said casually. "I do not care. You are on your own for the stupid things you did. You are not allowed to say that I am your cousin or that you know me in front of others. I just started here and have a bright future, and will not be destroyed like you were," Han Hao said, glaring at Han Sen. "Sure, I won't tell." Han Sen knew his cousin had been looking down on him since he went to integrated compulsory education, and there was no way he would support him under these circumstances. Of course, he was not obligated to either. "That's settled then. Don't say you know me," Han Hao told Han Sen once again before leaving, fearing that someone might see them together. Han Sen left Steel Armor Shelter and went all the way into the mountains. He didn't plan to hunt copper-toothed beasts anymore, as he had had enough of their meat and would no longer gain primitive geno points from it. It was another primitive creature that he was going after. He could eat several and also bring back a living one to evolve. Han Sen had chosen a place called Barathrum Cave for hunting this time. It was a remote cave in the mountains, where primitive creatures, quartz scorpions, lived. Because it was so dark and narrow in Barathrum Cave, even with lighting equipment, sometimes it was still difficult to see quartz scorpions hidden in rock tunnels. If stung by these scorpions, it would take a mere 3 to 5 minutes before someone who had maxed out on primitive geno points would be poisoned to death. Therefore, few people would choose quartz scorpions as their targets. With black beetle armor, however, Han Sen wasn't risking much, as it was not likely that quartz scorpions could get to him. He chose quartz scorpions because, first, it was easy to hide himself from the public in the cave. And second, a quartz scorpion was only the size of a fist, so it would be easy for him to carry their bodies back, unlike the large prey which were hard to transport. Third, if he happened to gain the beast's soul of a quartz scorpion, he would also make a fortune, as it was a weapon like a military knife which was poisoned and incredibly sharp. As a primitive beast soul, its price was almost as high as a mutant one. At the mouth of the cave, Han Sen made sure he was alone and summoned his armor, entering Barathrum Cave prepared. As modern lighting equipment didn't work in God's sanctuary, Han Sen brought a self-made torch, with which he could only see several feet in front of him. With mica in the rocks reflecting the light, he could hardly see the hidden scorpions. Clank! Han Sen soon felt a hit on his foot. He looked down and saw a deep blue scorpion the size of his fist stinging him on the feet with its tail. Chapter 17, Unexpected Encounter. Fortunately, Han Sen's feet were also wrapped in armor, and the scorpion tail couldn't hurt him at all. Han Sen stepped on the quartz scorpion and crushed it. Primitive creature quartz scorpion killed. No beast soul gain. Eat the flesh of quartz scorpion to gain 0 to 10 primitive geno points. Han Sen picked up the dead scorpion, put it into a prepared bag, and walked further into the cave with the bag on his back. Protected by the black beetle armor, Han Sen killed all quartz scorpions he saw on the way, and there were nearly 100 scorpions in his bag after he had walked for an hour. Georgie Porgy, Pudding, and Pie kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, Georgie Porgy ran away. Han Sen collected the dead scorpions as he was humming a nursery rhyme. His mother had to work to support their family, and he was the one who took care of Han Yen. That's why he was used to humming nursery rhymes. Dollar? Han Sen heard the other name he had given himself when he was on a spree. Shocked, he peered in the direction where the voice came from. In the cave sat a woman in her 20s leaning against stalagmites, looking at him surprised. Qin Xian! Han Sen exclaimed. Not expecting to see this woman here, Han Sen turned around to run. Since he had stabbed her in the rear, he had had nightmares about it. Don't go. I don't care about the grudge between you and Son of Heaven. And even if I wanted to look for trouble, I wouldn't be able to, Qin Xian quickly said. Han Sen paused and looked back at Qin Xian, whose ankle was swollen and badly bruised. Clearly, she had been stung by a quartz scorpion. It suddenly hit Han Sen that Qin Xian must have so many treasures on her since she had been in steel armor shelter for years and wished to evolve with the maximum sacred geno points. She must have sacred blood beast souls and very many mutant beast souls. At this point she was injured, and it looked quite serious. She had so many geno points that the scorpion poison might not kill her, but her ability to fight surely had suffered, or at least she couldn't move her injured leg. Although I was the one who stabbed her, she hit me back right away and has been ruthless to me ever since. If I could blackmail her right now, that would be some compensation for my suffering these months, Han Sen thought, leering at Qin Xian. As if she could see through him, Qin Xian summoned a beast soul in the shape of a purple butterfly, which turned into a purple dagger in her hand. You know the name of this dagger? Qin Xian asked him with a smile. I don't. Han Sen noticed the gleam of the dagger, but she couldn't have summoned it for its beauty. It must be at least a mutant beast soul and even possibly a sacred blood beast soul. This dagger is the beast soul of a malicious butterfly, and it is envenomed with strong poison. You decide if your armor could block my dagger. Qin Xian was still smiling. Qin Xian couldn't see Han Sen blushing because his armor blocked his face. You worry too much. We just met and have no hard feelings between us whatsoever. Why would I try to hurt you? The sacred blood armor might not have been able to block the sacred blood dagger. Han Sen would not take the chance. Besides, they weren't really enemies either, as Qin Xian didn't do anything more than make a few threats. It was Son of Heaven and his gang that really bullied him. Qin Xian smiled and took back her dagger. I can't move. If you can take me out of the cave safely, I will pay you a generous reward. How come you came here alone? Han Sen asked, not agreeing straight away. He was curious how Qin Xian was able to come this far when there was no trace of quartz scorpions being hunted on the way. Originally I wanted to kill a mutant quartz scorpion, but it was more cunning than I thought. It started to attack me, leading other scorpions when my incense was about to burn out, so that I couldn't leave the cave. The primitive scorpions no longer feared me when the incense was gone. I was able to fight them off but was stung by a mutant quartz scorpion. So now it's even less likely that I can leave here. Qin Xian looked at Han Sen and said, didn't you barter with Su Shaoqiao for money? Take me out and I'll offer you that. You were stung by a mutant quartz scorpion? Han Sen looked at her, horrified. If it was just a sting by a primitive quartz scorpion, I wouldn't have asked for help, Qin Xian said casually. Han Sen now knew it was incense that kept the quartz scorpions sway from Qin Xian, and she thought that he must have used the same method. What she didn't know was that he had killed all quartz scorpions on the way out. If she had known, she would have walked away herself. Did you not kill the mutant scorpion? Han Sen asked again. Yes, but I did not get a beast soul. No one could get the flesh either, as it's full of scorpions out there, Qin Xian said. I'll take you, not for money but for a mutant beast soul. You are too greedy. Qin Xian glanced at him. Miss Qin, for you, a mutant beast soul is nothing. Is your life not worth it? Han Sen said. All right then. Qin Xian looked at Han Sen earnestly. Amazing. You have a deal, Mississippi. Han Sen walked farther into the cave. Chapter 18, Mutant Creature. What are you doing? Qin Xian frowned. I'll take you out after picking up the corpse of the mutant quart scorpion you killed. Han Sen continued to go inside. There are so many scorpions there. Don't you need incense? Qin Xian looked at Han Sen, puzzled. Why do men need incense? Han Sen came back with a giant blue scorpion about a foot long in his hand. Qin Xian sighed after looking him up and down. I was tricked by you. You have already killed all the quart scorpions out there, haven't you? Smart girl. Han Sen poured the dead scorpions from his bag, which soon piled into a heap. Although Qin Xian had guessed it, she was still surprised to see that Han Sen had killed so many scorpions. Han Sen put the corpse of the mutant scorpion in his bag first before he started to fill it with primitive scorpions. There were still a few that wouldn't fit in there, and he didn't waste those but ate all the flesh until he had cleaned them up. Primitive quart scorpion flesh eaten. 4 primitive geno points gained. I haven't seen anyone quite like you, willing to eat such disgusting things. Qin Xian had never met someone who had such nice equipment but remained so stingy. Come on. Han Sen squatted next to Qin Xian, wanting to carry her out on his back. Since there are no scorpions anymore, I could just walk out, Qin Xian said. You have promised me a mutant beast soul and couldn't take that back anyway. Why not enjoy my service with your injured leg? Han Sen said. You are right. Why not? She bit her bottom lip, got up and carefully climbed onto the back of Han Sen. With the armor, Han Sen couldn't really enjoy the feeling of her body against his. He walked out, carrying Qin Xian, with his bag in one hand. She only weighed about 100 pounds, which was nothing for Han Sen, who had already gained quite a lot geno points. They emerged from the cave in no time. Where are you going? Asked Han Sen. Back to the shelter. Qin Xian said. Han Sen no longer spoke and carried her toward steel armor shelter. After an hour, he let her down. It is not too far away from the shelter now, and people pass by here all the time. Wait for a while, and then ask them to bring you back. Han Sen extended an empty hand to Qin Xian. Now, my mutant beast soul. I have asked Su Xiaoqiao to send a message. Would you sell me the sacred blood beast soul and gear? Qin Xian didn't hesitate before she handed over a mutant beast soul in the shape of a black cat to Han Sen. What is your offer for the golden double-edged axe? Han Sen asked. 2 million. That is a piece of sacred blood gear, while 2 million won't even get you a mutant beast soul. Han Sen frowned. Sacred blood gear is very nice, but you can't take it to the real world, while beast souls could be used outside God's sanctuary. That explains the price. If you would sell a sacred blood beast soul, I'd give you 20 million, explained Qin Xian. A mutant beast soul, plus 2 million, Han Sen said. A mutant beast soul is out of the question. I'll give you 5 million. Flesh of 2 mutant creatures and 2 million. You are asking too much. Final offer, 6 million. After all, you can't take it outside, Qin Xian said. Okay, get the money ready. I will tell Xiaoqiao when and where we trade, Han Sen said and left with his bag. You really would not consider selling the sacred blood beast soul? 20 million is just a tentative offer. We could discuss further, Qin Xian said to his back. No way. Han Sen left without pausing. Qin Xian looked at him leaving and thought, His armor was tougher than the quartz scorpion's sting. It must also be a sacred blood beast soul. Who was he? He doesn't look like a soldier. She had no clue. Han Sen went back to his original look and returned to the shelter with his bag. There was no one guarding the gate anymore. They had searched for Dollar for so long and found nothing, so they had to give up. Coincidentally, Han Sen ran into Han Hao and his friends again. "Nice to see you again, ass freak. You have a full bag with you. How many mutant creatures did you hunt?" A young man ridiculed him. "One." Han Sen replied calmly. "Ha, you are funny. Could you even hunt primitive creatures?" "It must be full of black beetles there," laughed the young man, leading everyone to burst into laughter. No one believed Han Sen could get a mutant creature. "Han Hao, don't mistake him for anyone. If you knew him, you'd forever have bad luck." A young man patted Han Hao on the shoulder. "No way I'd know, as freak." Han Hao looked embarrassed. Han Sen ignored them and carried his bag back to his room. He saved the mutant quartz scorpion and was going to sell Xiaoqiao all the rest. Although he could evolve a creature into a mutant 1.5 months with the black crystal, he'd rather use the crystal to get sacred blood creatures.